Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping into the high-stakes, honestly kind of volatile world of chemical manufacturing. This industry takes raw feedstocks and transforms them into, well, over 70,000 different products that you and I use every single day. We're talking everything from agricultural fertilizers to the tiny industrial adhesives inside the smartphone you might be holding right now. But here's the thing, making these essential materials requires a plant floor packed with heavy machinery, extreme temperatures, intense pressures, and some pretty hazardous substances. In an environment like that, protecting the workforce isn't just checking off a regulatory box. No way. It is absolutely paramount to the survival and the success of the business itself.
So when we think about industrial safety, it's super easy to just picture hard hats, safety goggles, warning signs everywhere, right? But how do we actually measure the true cost and effectiveness of safety in a chemical plant? I mean, how do investors, regulators, or even the public really know if a company is truly protecting the human beings on its front lines? We can't exactly just take a company's word for it. We need rigorous, standardized metrics that capture both those sudden, acute accidents and the slow, totally invisible health risks. Today, we're going to look at exactly how the industry measures human protection.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap to demystifying these vital reporting metrics today. First, the chemical industry's human element. Then, tracking incidences and fatalities, followed by direct versus contract employees. After that, managing chronic health hazards, and finally, engineering a safer future.
Right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the chemical industry's human element.
Before we dig into the raw data, we've got to understand the baseline reality of the plant floor. We're talking about folks working around massive heavy machinery, intense electrical hazards, and highly reactive chemicals where, let's be real, a momentary lapse can literally mean a catastrophic explosion. To survive that daily reality, we absolutely need transparency. Enter the SASB standards, which are now maintained by the International Sustainability Standards Board. You can kind of think of this as the ultimate scorecard for corporate responsibility. The SASB framework recognizes something absolutely crucial. A company's financial health is deeply, deeply tied to operational safety. These standardized metrics essentially force chemical companies to transparently report on how well they protect their most valuable asset, their people. It ensures that when a company says safety first, they actually have the hard data to back it up.
Moving on to Section 2, tracking incidents and fatalities.
So, when sudden accidents do happen, how do we compare the safety record of, say, a massive global conglomerate against a much smaller regional producer? Well, the answer is TIR. That stands for Total Recordable Incident Rate. SASB defines this really strictly. We aren't tracking paper cuts in the front office here. We're tracking significant safety failures. We're talking work-related injuries or illnesses resulting in death, days away from work, or medical treatment beyond just basic first aid. And to level the playing field, the incident count is multiplied by 200,000. Now, why that number? Because it perfectly represents 100 full-time workers putting in 40 hours a week for 50 weeks a year. You then divide that by the total hours worked by all employees. This brilliant little bit of math normalizes the data, so it allows us to accurately compare safety cultures, totally regardless of company size. And alongside TIR, companies also have to report their outright fatality rate using this exact same formula.
Next up, Section 3, direct versus contract employees.
Now, what's really fascinating about this distinction is how it completely shuts down a massive reporting loophole. You see, on any given day, a chemical plant operates with a whole mix of different types of workers. Historically, some companies might boast these pristine safety records for their direct payroll employees, all while outsourcing the absolute most dangerous, high-risk maintenance tasks to contract workers. And if a contractor got hurt, poof, it wouldn't show up in the primary data. Well, the SASB standard stops this dead in its tracks. It explicitly requires companies to report the TIRI and fatality rates for both direct employees and contract employees completely separately. The rule is simple. If you supervise the worker, whether they're a direct plant operator wearing a company badge or an independent contractor, you own their safety data. You simply can't outsource your risk anymore. By tracking both groups, it ensures a true plant-wide culture of safety.
Okay, on to Section 4, managing chronic health hazards. We need to pivot here from immediate physical accidents to the silent long-term threats. An acute incident happens in a split second, right? But chronic health hazards, those can take literally decades to manifest. Companies are required to detail their efforts to assess, monitor, and actively reduce worker exposure to severe health risks. We're talking about corrosives that damage tissue, hepatotoxins that go after the liver, nephrotoxins affecting the kidneys, neurotoxins, and known or suspected carcinogens. Just imagine a sophisticated digital health tracking database actively monitoring the occupational exposure levels of every single worker on the floor to these exact substances. It's incredible. It's not just about what hurts you today. It's about making absolutely sure the environment doesn't make you sick 20 years down the line. Companies have to discuss exactly how they're identifying these hazards and what their daily operational processes are to keep those exposure limits strictly in check.
And finally, Section 5, Engineering a Safer Future.
Let's move to how this all builds together, because identifying the hazards is really only step one. Now we need actionable steps to build a truly comprehensive safety strategy. First, companies continuously assess the environment with rigorous occupational exposure limit reviews. Then, they implement technology. Picture direct and contract plant operators standing side by side, geared up in state-of-the-art, modern personal protective equipment, conducting routine safety checks on heavy machinery. It looks impressive, but here's a totally surprising fact. PPE is actually the last line of defense in industrial safety. Yeah. The ultimate goal is phase out and substitute. Companies have to outline how they're using automation to just remove the human worker from the hazardous environment entirely. Or, even better, how they are substituting dangerous chemicals with safer alternative materials. They aren't just managing the hazard, they're literally engineering the hazard out of the process altogether.
And this brilliantly illustrates why all of these metrics matter way beyond just basic human decency. Creating a highly effective safety culture is a core business strategy. But simply, protecting the line protects the bottom line. When a company actively minimizes worker exposure and maintains a genuinely safe environment, they avoid massive financial consequences. Fewer incidents mean lower healthcare costs, a drastic reduction in the risk of litigation, and far, far less operational disruption. A safe plant runs efficiently. A dangerous plant, that's just a financial liability waiting to happen.
We so often think of corporate sustainability purely in terms of, green energy, carbon footprints, or water conservation. But I want to leave you with this one thought to chew on. Is a company truly sustainable if the actual people on the line aren't safe? True sustainability absolutely has to start with human lives. The SASB standards give us the exact metrics we need to hold companies accountable for their human element. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the data, keep looking for the real impact behind those numbers, and I'll catch you next time.